Next up, we have Varda Caspi, CMO of Aiode. Varda and I met, I think, Varda, it was almost a year ago when you approached us with initial inquiries about the need to, bring HubSpot into Aiode, which was quite an early stage, an early stage company at the time, finding its product market fit, finding its niche, finding its early success.
I think we're still searching for that.
I trust you to find it.
I don't think there's a startup that hasn't been in that query for at least 2 years since their inception. So definitely, I think we're still there. We're gonna be, even we'll have still product market fit, we'll still have that question.
So I'll let you present yourself and the company, and then go through your presentation. I'll just say that back then, I mean, I know you're going to talk a lot about PLG and how you found the fit for it. And I remember our initial conversation where there was a lot of concern expressed about, can we really do that? So with that, I'll let you take over and share your screen and enjoy.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen, but as I do that, I want to say I really agree with Lily that AI doesn't have to replace us, because we at Aiode do AI that doesn't replace producers and music creators or musicians. We're creating tools that help producers create while artists and musicians get in the loop and are still remunerated. So I think there's going to be more and more marketing tools for that as well. I think we already see that going into the market, and we see helpful tools. Some of them, I've been in beta for 3 AI tools in the last 6 months for marketeers. All of them are in the position of keeping the marketeer in his position, let's say, and not replacing the marketeer. But definitely we're looking at a time where every investor will say, why not use an AI instead of bringing content manager? And why do you need an automation manager or operational team where you have everything in AI and you can do everything with Zapier and some quick automations? And I think we're still far from replacing the marketing team that is needed to push, to really, really push. And that's for sales-oriented teams and PLG-oriented teams and teams that combine PLG and sales teams. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is PLG and B2B. And yes, in HubSpot. And Idan, you're correct. Like when I came to this and when I came to NB as an integrator, my biggest fear was how we're going to turn HubSpot into our PLG machine. And when looking at PLG, you have a lot to consider that is not sales oriented. And we do have also a classic B2B strategy that is really, really small. But I'm going to talk about today how big companies in cyber, in marketing, in tech, in AI do PLG in B2B, and how you can do it as well through HubSpot. So that's about me a bit, not that important. Hi. And most importantly, let's talk about Aiode for a second, because I think that will help clear things as to why we need PLG and why it's so central in our strategy. So Aiode is the first company to ever build a proprietary AI architecture that allows us to model real musicians into their virtual selves. So we model not only the audio output out of the instruments, but also the behavior of the musicians on the. We are one of the only AI companies that are ethically trained. That means that all of our data is either licensed or created by us. We're one of the only AI companies, and specifically also in music AI companies, that remunerates our artists. So that means that every time a creator does a virtual session with one of our musicians, with our virtual musicians, the real musician behind that musician that was modeled into that musician gets paid in a revenue share cut. So we're one of the only companies to actually create a new revenue stream in the music industry since streaming. And we're in beta. So that means that when we're talking about PLG and beta, you need to really understand who's coming into your funnel, because it's going to be like hectic in the beginning, right? You're starting to understand who you are as a company. And if you're a marketeer, the first marketeer in a startup, you will experience total and utter chaos, every company. And with line. And I think that's what, Idan, you've experienced with us. I think I brought half the company to most of the meetings. Back when we were about 9 people, today we're 16. Hoo-ha! But still, it means getting everybody hands-on involved in making sure that you don't only understand the life cycle, you understand the behavior. And that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about today. So let me show you quickly what we do so you get the gist of it. Wait, can you hear?
So.
Yes.
Okay. So skip the messaging part because you're not my target audience. And I'll just focus on what we do. What you saw right now are 3 takes from real musicians. Lior Ozri is a real life bass player who plays a lot with Noah Kirill, with a lot in New York and Jersey and jazz scenes, and many, many more. So when you're a music creator, you don't have as much accessibility to real musicians. Most of them are in silos. So today we're creating that accessibility by giving creators what they want the most, to work with session musicians, but most of the time it doesn't happen because of geographical constraints, money, you need a studio, you need to coordinate the time, and that most of the time doesn't happen. So people go to plugins. That means like a designer has plugins for his After Effects, and a musician or music producer has his plugins for his DAW, and he needs to work on that, like a DevOps needs to work on services. And when your DevOps is going to be curious and passionate about what he do, he's going to be actually a PLG consumer for you, not really a B2B classic consumer, because he's going to be, and by the way, anyone raise of hand, anyone also working on PLG here? I don't see it. Okay, interesting. So if you're not working on PLG, I think you should. I think most B2B companies should work on a PLG strategy for their business right now, because it affects huge corporations and it affects small startups as well. It doesn't matter if you're in cyber or in marketing or in fintech, B2B, you still have that person who is super passionate about what we do and what you do. And they'll want to investigate, they'll want to explore themselves, they want to find new tools, and in that they'll want a self-serve onboarding. They most of the time won't want to talk to a sales representative. They don't want to for you to sell them why they want to discover themselves the value of the product for their operation they work with, for the product, for their project. It can be entrepreneur, it can be, I saw in DevOps, in cyber, in fintech, in marketing, consumers that were B2B consumers, but their consumer behavior were a B2C consumer behavior. This means they don't want to talk to your sales team. They'll be suspicious of your sales team sometimes because they'll think there's a gist into it, because they're not interested. They'll be looking for great content. They'll be looking for a frictionless onboarding experience, and they'll be looking for a personal touch and community because they have their community influence. So when you have a product reaching out to developers, to CISOs, you'll see that a lot. Some of the CISOs that I know are PLG consumers themselves. So you see that in their behavior, not necessarily in their role. It differentiates between businesses. And that's the differentiate between backgrounds as well. So when we dove into building Aiode's personas, we actually looked at things from a behavioral point of way. So we believe that when we build the personas, all of them touch also the big businesses, the universals, the big labels, the big tech companies that we can partner with, but they're also doing that for themselves completely. So we have tech geeks who are super into music creation, music production, who spend a lot of money. Sometimes they spend more than small companies on their music creation and music production projects. We have the professional producers who mostly of the time work with big corporations and big businesses, so they influence that as well. And we have a huge meat here who is working independently or working in companies on projects, but they bring their own tools to the workforce. That means that they'll be on a business level. They are a business, they represent a business, but they'll be buying in a consumer-facing way. So as I said, Aiode is a PLG, consumer, prosumer, and I can whip up more acronyms there, but there's a lot more companies that started as startups, went deep diving into their PLG and made that successful. We see that in Canva with their new release, amazing things that they're doing, but they started as a B2B PLG, going for the social media managers, going for the marketeers who have their own projects, who need extra. And they have now also a B2C strategy and a really deep B2B strategy, but there are sales-supported PLG strategy and not a direct sales-oriented strategy. Sync as well. A lot of Sync's work in DevOps, you'll see, is a PLG strategy. When they're on, if you look at their onboarding, it's a really frictionless onboarding that a lot of cyber companies can learn from. I can dive into all of these, but I think that will cover all of my time of the world if I start doing that. So why is a strong PLG the GOAT? First of all, it's a dream, the dream of every CEO I've met in future. I think it's going to be future, past, or present. Because when you have a strong PLG, you have a kind of a way to show investors, hey, I don't need a sales team to show the value of my product. I do some marketing, it's amazing, pop out, I have a product. We all know that there's a lot of work going into that in the background just from that. But aside from that, there's no sales team. It's totally digital and autonomous and measurable. There's no fighting over MQLs and SQLs. Most of the things that sales and marketing teams fight over on a daily, weekly, yearly basis, depends where you are. There's the PQL, product qualified lead, which is really trackable because you can measure, you can quantify the behavior or accumulate it, depends on the product that you're working on and how you build your databases to send custom events to HubSpot. And it's more usage. The value and the usage are correlated. And the onboarding is frictionless, I would say, but it needs to be frictionless, which is most of the times where the big fall for marketer is, the intersection of the onboarding process. So what are the key ingredients for success in PLG? And I'll talk in a second on how we implemented these. So behavior-based segmentation, we all say that, but what does that really mean? When we're talking about behavior-based segmentation for us in Aiode, we're talking about creating, first of all, we've created an onboarding process that have a questionnaire. And I can tell you that questionnaire has changed about 5 times as we analyze the data of that and realize how that accumulates to behavior and segmentation to understand exactly how does that fall into the ICP that we've decided is the personas for this product. Consolidating data and touch points. So one of the things that most of the startup that I've worked with fall is that they don't start saving data from day one, and they don't start accumulating data and passing it to HubSpot from day one. That means that when you're trying to aggregate things, there's nothing to aggregate. When you're trying to build flows and workflows, there's nothing to aggregate to because you don't have the triggers, you don't have the validation of the data into something that you can actually use. So I came to Envy to integrate HubSpot at a stage we didn't have any leads, we didn't have anything. We built the infrastructure before we actually built the funnel. We built it simultaneously, and that really helped us. So when I say tracking the milestone, and I'm talking about, and I'm really adamant about the onboarding process because this is a weak spot for a lot of organizations. We see that when you're tracking the milestones, and most of the companies have more than a 1-step onboarding process, it's 2 or 3 and even 4-step onboarding process, depends on what are the validation metrics that you need or the information that you need in order to create your client or the account for your client. You don't measure the whole pass from one stage to another. You don't really understand where users fall and why. And I know there's a lot of product analytics tools and product managers and sit and analyze, but how are you as a marketer active in that space, in that super critical space with the client? Do you have the measures to send to HubSpot that a user is stuck on one specific part of your onboarding, and maybe that's the issue and not anything else. So for example, one of the key things that we're currently analyzing and we're now moving into HubSpot is the actual process of where the user is in our onboarding step, not just when he started, when he ended, and what phase did he complete, but really a bit more into that, so we can send him specific emails about his onboarding process and help you move down the funnel and complete things. We then already start automated flows to send out customer communication that is really crisp and clean. So we combining the fact that we know who our user are by metrics of attribution and UTMs, as well as the questionnaires that we have, as well as other metrics that we have in place through custom fields and triggers, we have the ability to send and create workflows. So Journey is available mostly on enterprise level, if I'm correct. So if you don't have the enterprise level, you can still do that, and we don't have the enterprise level. Idan can make sure of that. We have the professional level because we're
I can make sure that you have the enterprise.
I love free. But if we're talking about us as a young startup with no dollar in revenue yet, I can tell you that for us in the professional, we still found amazing ways to create workflows that behave almost as journeys to create that, because you have triggers and you can use a property value change in order to create that trigger. And you don't have to use the lifecycle, right? You don't need to use specifically the record creation or came out of something and went into something. You have custom properties. You can actually create with these custom properties a lot of triggers that can then move the client through the phases, through the behavioral phases, even though he's in the same life cycle. So if I have a user who is onboarded to our beta platform, I can actually monitor his behavior and send him custom emails, even though he might not be still a paying user, because we don't have paid users yet, but also in his transition to becoming a more active user on the platform, which is something that we hold dear very much. So how did we do that aside from tracking and attribution? So we are trying to maximize what HubSpot is giving us to the T. And that means that we designed a personal, I see the text has switched between the two images. So the left image is the onboarding process, the initial onboarding process that we build on HubSpot. And the right one that you'll see is actually the personalized email that we're creating. And these are all no-code solutions. So most of our emails are transactional emails. We don't do a lot of marketing emails to not really churn and pound the users as for communications. We see from previous roles, CMO roles that I saw that extensive communications to prosumer audience results in a churn on users just saying never send me emails again. We're sending specific transactional emails in the right time at the right place. So for example, if you're on the wait list, you'll get an email. If you got your beta access, you'll get an email. And then you'll get one email for starting off. Then if we want to notify you about things that we've created customly for you in your account, then you'll be able to get another transactional email. And we do this partnering closely with our product team. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do that, because we recognize if a user is super active and say, okay, we automatically topped up your account with more credits. We want you to play with this as fully as you can. So here I can say, okay, this is the automation that I need. This is the top up that I need. Let's do this. And I can show the value also for the operation and product team and say, okay, we want this base users that are going to be our advocates, and they're going to be our power users. Let's nurture them from the start, even before the product is is a paid product. So they're going to be in love with it even before it comes out. And we can do that only if we automate it. Otherwise, going with almost 4,000 users already onboarded to the platform, doing that one by one is not valid. In any case, you'll need an army of marketing operations team to do that. So use the triggers. Get to that. Yes.
Varda, we're almost out of time, but when you just want to clarify something for my benefit, yes, and maybe the audience, when you say transactional emails, what you mean is emails that are not prompted by marketing that you don't, you decide. So a non-transactional regular email is when you decide when you send it. Transactional is when basically the user decides based on their action, the system decides when it's going to send it, right? So it reacts to what they do.
Transactional emails, I mean the legal implication of a transactional email. That means that I don't offer them anything. I don't send them about anything that is a marketing offer. I either update them that something happened in their account or their account is ready, or the status of something. And if that, when they register, they ask to register, so we can update them on that. But if we decide to add credits to their account, and this is the collaboration with the product team, and I see that I can send a trigger to our database that this user is going to be running out of credits, and this is because of the behavior, this is a user that we want to top off automatically, I can automatically also send him a mail that he got topped off with more credits, even though he didn't ask it. So I'm creating like a customized experience for that client, creating a transactional email that I'm totally allowed to do because we're just updating his account and we're not creating any communication. I can tell you that most of the time, this is encouraging them to talk to us. Like they either hit reply to the email, they DM us on our socials. We have a Discord community that is super active, but lots of people don't have Discord. But we see a lot of user engagement through those transactional emails. Another question.
I have a question. So it sounds like you're using a positive motivation to give them more credits, but you haven't triggered, let's say, hey, you need to pay more now type of communication. So you're actually leveraging something positive to lure them to a better relationship.
First of all, we don't have any paid plans yet, so I can only offer them things for free. So yes, and I think as marketeers, and I'm gonna talk about like the environment, the whole business environment right now. People want positive things. People react really, really good to positive things. Positive psychology and positive marketing always work really, really well. So yes, I focus on the positive because I can at the moment. For example, there's at one point when we'll have the paid programs and I'll have to create a marketing offer that says you can top up. Then it's another event, right? It's another event. I can say, okay, this is a power user. I can, based on behavior, say and score this user as a power user and say, okay, I don't want him to pay for a top up. I can just top his account up with additional credits if I want to, to make him feel happy and make him feel special, him or her special. But and I can, on the other way, just send an email and say, okay, just pay for extra credits, right? It's how you segment the users. I'll always try to look at something that has an additional value for the client. So yes, you do want to reward your power users. And if you want to create for them the best experience ever, so more people want to be the power user and they want to create testimonials for you and say, I love this. I love Aiode. I love it so much. I want to marry Aiode. I don't know. Depends on what you do specifically. But in that, you always trying to encourage like the core users, like a group of core users, power users, to be the happiest campers in the world. And positive things is mostly what you do with that.
Great. Varda, anything else before we wrap up that you wanted to show us?
I'll just show, like, for example, one of our contact cards, and we see here that the life cycle doesn't change, but we have different B2C roles that we've created that based on the information that we're getting from the clients, we're creating a B2C role. This can be a B2B PLG role, but on a B2C role as per a HubSpot, because if you have a B2B role or property already in place, you can use the B2C role in order to populate the PLG audience that you're trying to target.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that I'll say is HubSpot is great. I would definitely, though, recommend integration with other tools to make it more complete. Platforms like June or Journey or a CDP like Segment would be definitely recommended in order to consolidate.
You said CDP. Oh, it's a good segue. It's a good segue. So Varda, thank you very much.